In the bustling capital city of Ouagadougou, where the sun blazed mercilessly and the streets were filled with the noise of vendors, honking cars, and hurried footsteps, there lived a poor handicapped boy named Musa. His legs were crippled from birth, forcing him to drag himself on the dusty roads with the help of a worn wooden stick. Every morning, before the city awoke to its full chaos, Musa would position himself near a busy marketplace. His frail voice echoed with the same plea. Please, a little food, please. Some days he was ignored completely, the crowd brushing past him as though he was invisible. Other days, someone would toss a coin or drop a piece of bread into his little bowl. That was enough to keep him alive. Yet life for Musa was an endless cycle of hunger, dust, and humiliation. Despite his struggles, there was something remarkable about him, his eyes. They carried a strange spark, a mix of sadness and unyielding hope, as if he believed that even in the harshest corners of life, kindness still existed. For years, Musa dreamed of going to school, of learning to read and write. Each time he saw children in uniforms pass by with their books, his heart ached. But he knew school was a dream too far away. How could a boy who begged for food dare to dream of education? One particular afternoon, Musa sat under the shade of a tree, exhausted. His body was weak, his stomach empty for 2 days. He whispered softly, not to the crowd this time, but to the sky above. God, do you see me? Will anyone ever help me? That was the same day when the life of this boy would take an unimaginable turn. At that very moment, Ibrahim Traoré, the young leader who had already become a symbol of hope for the people of Burkina Faso, was walking through the market with minimal security. Unlike other leaders, he often preferred to blend with the people, listening to their problems directly instead of being surrounded by luxury and distance. As he passed by, his sharp eyes fell on the frail figure of Musa. Most people would have looked away, as they always did, but Ibrahim slowed down. He saw the trembling boy, the stick, the empty bowl, and those pleading eyes. He stopped in his tracks. Son, what is your name? Ibrahim asked, kneeling down to meet the boy at eye level. The crowd gasped. The president, kneeling in the dust before a beggar boy? Such a sight was unthinkable. But for Ibrahim Traoré, humanity always came before power. Musa, Musa, the boy stammered, shocked that someone, let alone the president, was speaking to him. Ibrahim placed a hand on his shoulder. Musa, do you eat every day? The boy lowered his head. Not always. Some days no food. Silence spread through the marketplace. People who had walked past Musa 1,000 times now watched as their leader knelt before him, giving him more dignity than anyone ever had. Ibrahim stood up and spoke loudly, his voice carrying across the crowd. Look at this child. How many of you have passed by him every day without offering help? How many of you have allowed him to suffer in your own streets? A nation's strength is not measured by its armies or wealth, but by how it treats its most vulnerable. The marketplace froze in guilt and reflection. People dropped their heads in shame. Ibrahim turned back to Musa. From today, you will no longer beg for food. You will go to school, and you will eat every day. I promise you that. Tears welled in the boy's eyes. He couldn't believe what he had just heard. Could this be real? True to his word, Ibrahim immediately instructed his team to arrange proper medical care for Musa. For the first time in his life, Musa slept in a bed with clean sheets, ate warm meals, and was treated with kindness. Doctors examined his legs, and though his condition was permanent, they provided him with a wheelchair so he could move with dignity. Within weeks, Musa was enrolled in a school. On his very first day, dressed in a clean uniform and holding a new set of books, he couldn't stop smiling. He wheeled himself into the classroom, his heart racing with excitement. The other children looked at him curiously. Some whispered, some giggled, but Musa didn't mind. He was finally inside a classroom, no longer looking from the outside. He was no longer just a boy with a bowl in the streets. He was a student, a dreamer, a child with a future. Years passed. Musa worked harder than anyone else in his class. He studied late at night under dim light, determined never to waste the opportunity he had been given. Every time he felt tired, he remembered that moment when Ibrahim had placed a hand on his shoulder and promised him a new life. That promise became his fuel. By the time Musa grew into a young man, he was among the top students in the city. His story spread across the nation. The handicapped beggar boy who was saved by a leader's compassion and transformed through education. One day, when Musa was invited to speak at a youth conference, he faced a crowd of hundreds of young people. His voice trembled at first, but then grew stronger. I once begged on the streets for a single piece of bread. People walked past me as though I did not exist. But one man stopped. One man cared. That man was Ibrahim Traoré. He taught me that leadership is not about power. It is about humanity, and he gave me the chance to live, to learn, and to dream. If I can rise from the dust of the streets, then every one of you can overcome your struggles too." The hall erupted in applause. Tears rolled down many faces. Musa's journey had become a symbol of hope, not only for the poor, but for an entire nation. Ibrahim Traore, now seated in the front row of that conference, watched with pride. He smiled, knowing that his small act of compassion years ago had blossomed into something far greater. It was not just about saving one boy. It was about proving that humanity, when placed at the heart of leadership, could transform generations. After the speech, Musa wheeled himself towards Ibrahim and hugged him tightly. "Thank you, Father," he whispered. Ibrahim's eyes glistened. "No, Musa, thank you for proving that kindness is never wasted." Musa went on to become a teacher, dedicating his life to educating poor children, especially those with disabilities. He made sure no child ever felt invisible as he once did. He reminded them that their worth was not determined by their poverty, their disability, or their struggles, but by their courage to dream and fight. And every time someone asked Musa what inspired him, he would say, "One day, when I had nothing, not even hope, someone chose to see me. That one act changed everything. That is the power of true leadership. That is the legacy of Ibrahim Traore." The story of Musa and Ibrahim became legend in Burkina Faso, told in schools, in villages, and across cities. Parents told their children, teachers told their students, and people told each other whenever they felt hopeless. It reminded everyone that compassion could rewrite destiny. For Ibrahim, it was never about glory or recognition. For him, Musa was proof of what he had always believed. Leadership without humanity is nothing. And for Musa, it was the story of how a poor, handicapped boy, once begging for scraps, was lifted into a life of dignity, not by charity, but by compassion, faith, and the courage of a leader who refused to walk past suffering. In a world full of leaders who chase power, Ibrahim Traore showed us the true meaning of humanity. One act of kindness can change a life forever. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because the world needs more stories of hope and humanity.